Well, hello, and welcome to our Mental Health Monday moments all May long. Here at Mount Zion, we believe that God desires for us to prosper and to be in good health, even as our souls have prospered. And so we're standing on that this month. All month long, we're going to be dealing with topics that can contribute greatly to our mental health. And so on today, we're going to open it up talking about a topic that I'm sure all of us can relate to, and that is trauma. So today I have with me Maria Bush, beautiful as she can be, but beautiful and smart and credentialed. Amen. Licensed professional counselor and founder and owner of Kindness Connects Us Therapy Services. Thank you so much for being here with us on today and helping us to be able to unpack this topic. We're talking about trauma today, and you've been with us before, so I'm sure the people will recognize you, but we keep bringing you back because you got the goods.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thank you so much for allowing me to be here and the opportunity to serve in this way. I appreciate Bishop Walker and First Lady Walker for even being the headliners of this type of topic, because there's so many ministries that have not implemented mental health and integrated it into their ministry. So I'm just grateful that they provided a space for this. So
Absolutely. We thank God for Bishop being the kind of pastor that he is. And certainly, Bishop definitely desires for the congregants to be cared for from head to toe. We want to take care of them not only from head to toe, but inside and out. So we thank God for his heart and his spirit. And so that's why we are dealing with mental health topics this month.
absolutely.
So let's dive in. Let's talk about this topic again that everybody can relate to, because all of us have experienced some level of trauma in our lives, regardless to what the level of trauma is. Of course, it determines how we have been able to deal with it, or if we have not dealt with it. So can you help us unpack what trauma is? Maybe provide some examples of trauma and just how it can impact us in our lives.
Absolutely. So when we think about trauma, we always think about it's this specific event that anyone that has experienced this event has been traumatized. But actually, it's sometimes the circumstances of the event is not so much that considers something traumatic for a person. It's actually the real trauma is where it's the biological response that we have to the event that has happened that determines if this is traumatic for this person. So the more, I always say, it's not what has happened, but what is happening inside of you during that event. And so the more helpless, the more overwhelmed, the more a person feels scared, fearful during that event can lead to if that is a traumatic experience for them.
Wow.
So we think about experiences like sexual abuse, physical abuse. Some other examples are child neglect, divorce, poverty, community violence. We think about just plethora of things. If you have a family member who is dealing with a mental health condition, if you have a family member that's dealing with substance abuse issues, those things can be considered traumatic. And if we experience those things, they can impact us short term and long term. And so I always say it can impact us the way we feel, the way we think, and the way we behave. And so a lot of times I have clients that come to me that have issues with managing their emotions. They're afraid that they're going to lose control. They have a hard time with connecting with others because now they can't trust anyone because of this traumatic experience. I have folks that are dealing with anxiety and depression. Have folks that have disconnected from their body, where they're not able to recognize if they're carrying emotions in their body, because trauma does happen to our body, not only in our mind, but also our body. So we carry that. And so we can experience it in different ways, in various ways. It just depends on the person.
No, that's good. I'm learning some things here as I sit here with you. So it's not just what happens, but how we respond
Yes.
to what happens. And that is interesting, that you say that, because I think about Hannah
Yes.
in the Bible, right? This is Mount Zion, so we got to go to the Bible on this too. And so I think about Hannah, who clearly was barren, with children, and certainly it was seen as a blessing from God when you were able to bear children in her culture. So the fact that she was unable to bear children, that affected her psychologically. But I also think about her husband, who had a second wife, who was able to bear children. And so I think about the shame and the embarrassment that had to come from that, and perhaps even the mockery, right, that came out of that situation. But the response that Hannah went and prayed unto God. And instead of allowing the trauma to not only pierce her, but she allowed it to not paralyze her. Let's talk about, not only the response to the actual trauma, but how we respond in such a way that we don't allow what pierced us to also paralyze us.
Yes, that's so good. Because I think two can exist. The pain of our suffering, the pain of our healing, but also moving forward,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think I look at it as duality of healing. It's not about denying the pain, and it's not about forcing positivity. It's about, I'm key in this, and that's what I talk to my clients about. It's about embracing the fullness of being a human in the human experience. So many times we've grown up in our community, fix your face. You ain't got time to be sitting there looking like that. You don't have time for that. But really, what we're doing is resisting that and changing the narrative and saying, "Hey, I'm a human being having a full human experience. So I'm allowing myself to feel all the feels. I'm allowing myself to give me the opportunity to embrace what God has for me, right?" And that, and it is a process in that. But I love that you said it's duality of healing, and I think we move past hiding our pain, because our community, we've been learned and taught to hide our pain through cooking, laughter. The saying of, "I laugh to keep from crying."
Yeah.
And we do all these things, hustling and create all these different businesses, but really at the core of it, are we really dealing with the issue, the core issue, and the trauma?
Right. That's good, facing it,
Yes.
because what you don't face, you cannot fix.
Come.
So I thank God for, the Hannah, that lies within all of us who have experienced trauma, but have, we've made a decision that, again, we're not going to allow that trauma to paralyze us. And I know a lot of times we hear, faith without works is dead, and we hear that a lot, and it is so not cliche, because if we truly have faith, what are we going to do about healing from the trauma that we have experienced? And I think that is certainly necessary and certainly beneficial.
And I think too, when we think about facing it, right, we have to provide safety, because we can't face something if we're still in the environment we got sick in.
Wow.
If we're still hanging with the same people, doing the same things that we're doing, because what happens, our nervous system is dysregulated.
Oh my.
We need to regulate our system, because now our system is just responding because it's saying, "Oh, we're in danger still." But we have to let our system know that, "No, you're safe.
Wow.
It's okay." But first, we have to establish safety in order to face it. And then once we face it, then we can do what I call is visit, listen, and let go. So when we visit the trauma. We visit what happened. We don't stay there. Because like you said, sometimes we get stuck.
Right.
And we can't get stuck. So I look at it as watching a movie. And there's different scenes that you're watching in the movie.
That's good.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It happens, the movie goes on and continue, and it stops, it ends.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here in my safe place. I'm okay, but I'm revisiting that trauma. And that's not suppressing it. That's not denying it. I'm saying this happened to me.
Yeah.
And once I can do that in a safe place, in a safe, with a safe person, whether it's your therapist or a trusted friend, a pastor, then I can listen, right? Because I'm listening to my body, because what we carry trauma in our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes our bodies tells us things that we ourselves are not willing to admit.
Ooh.
We carry in our neck, our back, stomach. Sometimes these illnesses we deal with is a result of trauma sometimes. And then so listening to the emotions. I was looking up the Latin word. Emotion is a Latin word, and that means to move out. So when we experience emotions, emotions are temporal.
Yeah.
They're supposed to come in and move out.
That's good.
And not stay stuck, right? And so being able to find safety, revisit that trauma, but also listen, because you're having a full human experience. It's not a performative experience, it's a full human experience. So you're listening, but the last thing is letting go.
Mm-hmm.
So many times we hold our healing hostage because we're waiting on the healing of others, especially the ones that hurt us.
Oh, wow.
And you have to get to a place where I'm no longer holding my healing hostage. I'm letting it go. I'm radically accepting that this is what happened to me. I'm not waiting for an explanation, because the explanation is probably not going to suffice.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were in pain and wounded when they did what they did, or what happened. And so now I'm saying, this happened to me. Now what?
Mm-hmm.
Not why. Moving from the why to now what.
That is excellent. You said a mouthful there. That kind of leads me to talk about, and you touched on this a little bit, Maria, with, experiencing the trauma and the hurt, but also then moving towards healing. So I want you to answer the question, can hurting and healing survive in the same space?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Because I think sometimes, and the reason that I ask that is because I think, sometimes, the person who has experienced the hurt feel like if they're still hurting, then perhaps they're not healing. Right? And I think we need to dispel that so that people can understand, it's just almost like a grief journey, and, we deal with that. Just because you're still feeling it and you're still crying does not mean that you're not healing. So talk about healing and hurting surviving in the same space. Or existing in the same place.
No, that's good. I was going to say, bring that up, the stages of grief. Just because I'm experiencing this stage of grief doesn't mean I've taken steps back. It's a part of the process. I always tell my clients, and we share, trust the process. It may look a little different. It may not feel good, but trust the process. And emotions are here to work for us. Our emotions are not here for us to work for them.
Talk.
So emotion, just because I feel it, just because I miss him, doesn't mean I have to call him. Just because I feel like I'm not good enough doesn't mean I'm not good enough.
That's good. That's good.
It's an emotion. And what we say about emotions, they move out. And they come and go. I give the analogy of the ocean waves. They come and go. So just because I feel a thing doesn't make it very true. Doesn't make it valid. And so I could be hurting, but I can deal with it in, like we say, in a safe place, in a safety, and visit and listen. I can revisit it, and I can walk through this journey knowing that whose I am and who I am. And that's my strength and confidence, knowing that I'm walking this out and knowing my healing is not linear, but it's not linear.
So true.
We're going to have our ups and downs, and we're going to have our bad days, quote unquote. But it doesn't mean we're not healing.
No time limit.
No time limit. Healing is messy. It is painful sometimes.
Yeah.
But when we get to the other side of it, my God.
The beauty.
The beauty.
The power in that.
And the power. And knowing we have a God, he said, come all who are heavy laden, he will give us rest.
Yes, he will. Yes, he will.
Yes.
We thank God for, again, you're helping me with everywhere I want to go in this segment, because you talk about the healing that's on the other side and even the rest that comes from it, right? I think about the man at the pool of Bethesda. 38 years he had laid there. And, the place that I want to go here is, how does one embrace the newness of life as they live beyond trauma? Because I think about him who had laid there for 38 years as the victim. Once he was healed, now he has to learn how to live as a victor and not the victim. So how does one go forward embracing the newness of life after a traumatic experience? Not nursing it, not holding on to it, but moving past it and embracing all that is new. Forgetting those things that are behind and pressing toward the new thing.
Yeah. I think about, when we are actually moving forward, a lot of times we are uncomfortable because we're moving into the familiar, the unfamiliar. And what I've seen with my clients, a lot of times when it's like entering into a hallway where the back door is shutting behind you and there's a door in front of you that hasn't sometimes opened up yet. It's uncomfortable. You start having these feelings of uncertainty, like the children, they wanted to go back.
Lord have mercy.
At least I knew it. At least I knew what he was going to do.
Comfortable. Yeah.
But now I'm entering a space where it's unfamiliar, and a lot of times we try to cling to what's familiar. And so it is natural for when we are healing from trauma to try to go back to our pre-trauma selves.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I understand it, but it's counterproductive.
Come on.
Because at the same time, God is trying to do something new, and we have to embrace that newness. A new version of us is being born. We can't go back to who we were before because we have new knowledge, insight, revelation. And so being able to embrace that and nurture that, it's scary. But my God, when we have God's strength and the support of our community, we can do all things.
Yeah.
All things.
That's good. That is so good that you say that, because how many times have we been connected to someone who we know that was in a traumatic situation, and versus moving forward as soon as they started taking these steps and, into a space of uncertainty, a space that was unfamiliar to them, and they wanted to return back to what was comfortable, because at least in this space, they knew what they knew. Yeah.
It's comforting.
Yeah.
I know it is.
I get it.
Things change. I always say people, places, and things will change and shift when you start embracing this new version of yourself from this healing.
But though it's hard, keep moving.
Keep moving.
One day at a time.
Yes.
And every step you take, you're closer to your healing.
Come on.
I got it. I got it. I pray that, the people that are listening today were able to certainly grab onto some nuggets, about trauma. We focused a lot on individual trauma today, but then there are those collective traumas, that we've experienced, across the globe, COVID-19, the wildfires in California, even here in our city, the school shootings at the Covenant School in Antioch. So really quickly as we wrap up, do we deal with collective traumas in the same way that we deal with individual trauma?
Yeah, so that collective trauma is when we're referring to a psychological or emotional response as a group from a traumatic event. And so a lot of times when we're embracing healing on a community base or community level, ultimately you're really targeting the individual. And when you're dealing with trauma at an individual level, you also have to make sure community-based resources are available as well too.
Yeah.
And so you think about what Mount Zion did, the initiative for after the school shooting. And so it is a little bit different because we're coming together as a community to heal.
Yeah.
But it's pretty much the same, where we're having to face and work through our own things individually, but we're also relying on community as well too, sharing our stories, sharing our experiences, also moving to possibly changes with policies, advocating, voting, doing these things that are going to impact at a greater level individually and collectively.
Maria, thank you for joining us today and helping us to just unpack, what trauma is. Because again, I know that we've all experienced it, whether we know it or not. And I think this will be eye-opening for some people to say, I've been kind of having some things going on in my body. Am I holding on to some things? Have I experienced some things? Or even noticing these things as they happen and recognizing I may have some trauma that has not been dealt with. So thank you for joining us on today. If any of you are listening out there and you want to connect with Maria Bush, we are certainly going to be putting her information on the screen for you to connect with her as a therapist. But she talked about having some resources, and Mount Zion is one of those resources. So we always want to make sure that you know that your therapist certainly has to fit with you. So go out on our website, MountZionNashville.org, and click on the Care tab. And under that Care tab, you're going to see Counseling and Crisis Resources. Maria's information is already out there, but there's a multitude of counselors out there, and surely one of them will be able to fit your need. We thank you for joining us on today, and we look forward to you joining us on next week for our second segment of Mental Health Monday Moments. Until then, God bless and live well.